between the first and second hours, as a few convoys of mixed units of U.S. Air Force personnel fled this installation, currently being under attack by CHICOM forces belonging to the 138th Mechanized Infantry Division. Another of its battalions was advancing south into the city, as well as another that had just completed subduing this base, that had captured the port en route also to assist their brethren in their unit from the other battalion. Meanwhile, artillery shelling that had been profuse in this sector of the city was doing massive damage and leveling many buildings and homes. At this time, there were many armed civilians holding the line, and by the end of the first hour, were beginning to be pushed back, and I take you now to that sector. Also in this sector were some of the MiG fighters of the Combat Air Patrol and Russian air support in the battle. This battle here involves 4 companies of PLA Mech Infantry forces from that one mechanized infantry battalion that headed south before its brethren from another mechanized infantry battalion came down in a southwesterly direction. And as you can see here, there is one of the MiGs that broke off its formation, firing a few of its S-24 unguided rockets while coming in a downward and then upward veer as it dived to fire its rockets before veering up and out of the battle space. And it was firing its rockets at a convoy of U.S. Air Force mixed units of security and other forces fleeing in MRAPs with turrets on top, which acted as a sort of an armored personnel carrier. They were being pursued by one company of CHICOM Mech Infantry in their APCs and IFVs, mostly a mix of ZBD-08, which is their newest IFV, which has a huge 35mm cannon with armor-piercing, explosive-tipped bullets. Each is about like a grenade impacting. Same with their 25 and 30mm rounds they have on other vehicles, but these are even larger. And also anti-tank missiles, as some of these carried 2 HJ-8 anti-tank missiles on top of them as well. And the APCs, which were the armor personnel carriers, were of the ZBD-09 variety with 12.7mm heavy anti-personnel machine guns, which is like our 50 cal, but a little bit bigger in length of the casing, the brass casing that holds the gunpowder. And some even had 14.5mm, which were even larger than the 12.7s, which were technically classified as a air defense machine gun due to their insanely huge bullets and range and power. But they were pursuing these fleeing American forces, and ahead of them was artillery fire called in by the Mech Infantry companies belonging to that Mechanized Infantry Battalion heading directly south. And you can see the arrows are where they advance. The light red color is the areas they're attacking. And you can see there's a light blue here around 2 of these vehicles that the rockets were fired at from the MiG, coming down to strafe and fire rockets to provide close-in air support for their CHICOM allies. And you can see, again, more of the concept of them coming down the streets, each street. Some are dismounted, but some are vehicles. There's even a staggered column of mechanized infantry forces coming down this larger boulevard here. You can see there's a shopping center right here, a star pattern of American MRAPs, and they're right next to an apartment complex with grass in the yard and walkways out in the courtyards. The retreating American forces veer off, and as they head to reinforce their fellow armed forces brethren, they are accosted, totally assaulted by a mix of artillery fire and then the catching up PLA forces that intercept them and hit them from the side, totally flanking them. And these other forces, these infantry forces, dismounts, are coming down this street here to go after these civilians, which some are on top of this large, tall apartment building and are tossing Molotovs down at them, as that's basically the heaviest weapon accessible to civilians at this point in time, this early in the campaign, in the invasion. Now, off to the other areas, you can see in the shopping area how this parking lot, you see a few of these on either side of the parking lot. You see a few of these wedge formations, how they're advancing. They're leapfrogging via bounding and covering, where one lays down suppressive fire while the other moves forward, then they lay suppressing fire while they move forward, and that's how they continuously get closer and closer to the enemy infantry forces and armed civilians, and in some cases their vehicles. As remember, they're armed with heavier weapons like shoulder-fired RPGs and other things like that, like the CHICOM RPG copies. And the same is going on this side, and behind the shopping center, you have a wedge of Americans and two of their MRAPs. They're trying to fend off assaulting yet another assaulting company of PLA forces. Now, while that's all going on, at about the same time, I take you back to the municipal airport that was captured by two companies, in addition to the 3 battalions of the forces that drop their air assault units off at these bases, Mayport here, and these naval air bases up here. They also sent 2 companies from their air assault battalion further south to seize the airport. That's not their attack helicopter battalion. That's two battalions of the attack helicopters. That's their 1 air assault battalion that divvied up into different company elements. And they are flying very low, treetop or building top level, because a low and fast flying target is very hard to hit with small arms. And they are landing and spreading out around their helos and going and seizing various buildings, and they are only fighting with the security personnel at the municipal airport, as you can see. There's a